Okay. Einmal, gedenk ich, hat Seide sein Schammes gehabt, Zores Trures mit der Weibel, hat nicht gekannt, euch sagen, dass euch Zadig. Once, I remember, my Zayda and his assistant had great misfortunes, great difficulties, because a woman was unable to pronounce the letter Tzadik. Und das Weibel hat gedacht, nehmen Chlitza von ihr Schwager, weil ihr Mann ist gestorben ohne Kinder. So this woman had to take Chalitza from her brother-in-law because her husband had died without producing children. Wochenlang hat sie gehabt den Teires mit dem Schwager ihren zu lieb der Chalitza. So for long weeks, she had cases with the brother-in-law, with her brother-in-law, because of the Chalitza. Der Schwager, ein bitterer Mann, hat verlangt, als die Schwägerin soll balloinen für der Chalitza. So the brother-in-law, a very poor man, required that his sister-in-law should pay him for the chalitza. Was wird ihr geben, the chalitza which he would give her, as sie soll Megan Chasne haben wieder, so that she could marry again. Das Weibel hat geteinet, als sie hat kein Brüte nicht bei der Neshoma, weil sie hat alles versetzt bei dem Mannskrankheit. So the woman claimed that she didn't have a cent to her name because everything had been pawned during her husband's illness. Mein Seide hat geredet mit dem Schwager, als es ist ein Avle, was fordert Geld für eine Mitzvah aufzubinden, eine jüdische Tochter. So my Zayda spoke to the brother-in-law and told him and said to him that it was an injustice that he demanded money for a mitzvah which would release a Jewish daughter, a Jewish woman. Aber der junge Mann hat sich gehalten in Beiseins. Als ob die Schwägerin will Chasne haben, soll sie sich losen kosten. But the young man maintained his position that if his sister-in-law wanted to remarry, that she should pay. It should cost her. Umsicht wird ihr kein Chlitze nicht geben. So for nothing, he wouldn't give her any the Chlitze for free. Es ist gewesen eine bittere Sichsucht zwischen zwei arme und unglückliche Menschen. It was a bitter controversy between two poor and unhappy people. Endlich hat Seide gepoilt, als das Weibel soll geben ihr Schwager 100 Gulden, was ist gewesen eine Summe von 15 Rubel. Ich habe nicht, ob ich Oib ich hab kein Toes nicht. So eventually, my Zayda arranged that the woman should pay the brother-in-law 100 gulden, which was a sum of 15 ruble, if I'm not mistaken. Hat gehad gefordert 100 ruble. He demanded 100 ruble. Es ist abgeredet geworden der Tag von der Chalitza. So they decided on the day that the Chalitza would take place. Aber wenn Shmuel Shammos hat genommen lernen, das Weibel zu sagen, dem Posuk Chlotz Hanal, wie man darf sagen, die Wörter bei der Zeremonie, hat das Weibel nicht gekannt aussagen dem Tzadik von Wort Chlotz. Nur
Cholitz.
Nur anstatt dem gesagt Cholos mit der Samach. When Shmuel, the assistant, started to teach the woman how to say the verse, remove the shoe, as one has to, since one has to say these words during the ceremony, the woman could not pronounce the letter tzaddik of the word cholitz, but instead she said it with the cholitz with a samach. Zu lieb dem hat man ihr kein Chlitze nicht gekannt geben. And for that reason, they couldn't go through with the Chalitza ceremony. Der Seide hat weggelegt sein Teure, was hat gelernt mit seinem Talmid Todrus, a Bocher Alamden, und genommen lernen mit dem Weibel. So my Seide set aside his studying, that he was studying with his pupil Todros, a learned young man, and he began to teach the woman, he began to teach the woman. Zog Cholitz hat sie gelernt. Cholitz. So say Cholitz, he tried to teach her. Cholitz hat das Weibel gesagt, and she said Cholitz with a samach. Shmuel Shammos hat gearbeitet meisim, and Shmuel Shammos
worked wonders.
Worked very hard. Zog Gritz, Sitz, Hitz, Schwitz. These are all words that end with a tzaddik. But sie sich gekocht. So he tried to get her to say these words. Das Weibel hat die alle Wörter richtig ausgerät. So she pronounced all of these words correctly. Aber wie nur es ist gekommen zum Wort Cholitz, hat sie gesagt greisig. But as soon as it came to the word Cholitz, she said it incorrectly. Der Shammos hat gebrennt wie fire. The Shammos was enraged. Okay.
I'll take over then. Let me just point out that according to the Torah, the woman is supposed to call the man Cholitz HaNoal, someone whose sandal has been removed. And so that's a Torah law. So if she can't say it, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Narisch Weibel, als du kannst sagen Gritz and Hitz, aber was sollst du nicht können sagen Cholitz? Silly woman. If you can say Gritz and Hitz, how come you can't say Cholitz? hat nicht verstanden. He couldn't understand. Mein Seder hat dem kassendicken Schames abgestellt und gerät zum Weibel mit Guten, mit Seichel. Grandfather stopped this angry shamus, stilled him, and spoke to the woman with mit Guten, good-naturedly, without anger, mit Seichel, and with some wisdom. Zet, zu sagen richtig das Wort, weil nicht wird kein Chalitze nicht kriegen. Be careful to say the word correctly, because if not, then you can't get the chalitza. Und ihr wird müssen abfinstern eure Jahre. And you'll have to, all your years will have to become blackened. Ich habe kaum gepeilt bei euer Schwager. Soll euch geben chalitza. I just barely managed to convince your brother-in-law to give you the chalitza. Das Weibel hat geflammt von Busche. The woman grew red in the face from embarrassment, geweint, aber sie hat bei kein Eufen nicht gekannt, noch sagen richtig das Wort. But there, by no means was she able to pronounce the word correctly. Wie man hat es von ihr verlangt, as we were demanding from her, they were demanding from her. Upon him, clearly, Shmuel Shames hat sie gleich übergeschrocken beim ersten Mal, wenn sie hat Alpitoas herausgesagt Chalas anstatt Chalatz. Most likely it's because Shmuel the Shames had caused her great fear that first time when, because of a simple mistake, she had pronounced Chalas instead of Chalatz. Hat sie gemusst und schrecken, als sie lieb dem Os, kann sie bleiben aufgebunden, a ganz Leben. It must have frightened her that because of one letter, she might remain tied still to this brother-in-law her whole life. Und das hat das unglückliche, der schrockene Weibel also zerrudert, and this confused this unhappy, frightened woman so much, as bei ihr hat sich entwickelt a complex, that it became a complex in her. Und von groß Schreck vor dem Tzadik ist sie geblieben gelähmt beim Herausbringen ihm. And out of her great fear, because of this letter Tzadik, she remained lame with respect to saying that one word. Shmuel Shames hat die Sache ausgeteilt auf sein Poshet Neufen. But Shmuel Shames explained the matter in his simple manner. Sie ist a Yidin Behema. She is just a stupid woman. Hat gesagt, Pfarrer mein Bobbin. He said to my grandmother, was hat gearbeitet mit dem Weibel? Beim Sagen richtig das Wort. Who was working with the woman to pronounce the word correctly. Ashad eier Tirche Rebbetzin. Sie wird schon bleiben an Almona bis in Teitereim. It's a waste of your effort, Rebbetzin. She's going to remain a widow until she's dead. Mein Zeder hat nicht abgelöst, but my grandfather didn't leave the matter. Pflegt sich tomid stark missasig sein, wenn es ist gekommen aufzubinden jüdische Töchter. He would always be very engaged in the matter if it came to untying Jewish women, was seinen gebliebener Gunas, who had remained chained to their former husband. Ausgeforscht Edes und geschrieben Brief und Shalas Utshuvas. He would investigate witnesses. He would write letters, and he would write responsa literature. Azoi, as soll Chalila nicht kommen zu kein Sint zwischen Jiden, in order that, God forbid, no sin should arise among the Jews, because, of course, if she remarries without a proper get or chalitza, then the second marriage would be sinful. Und euch jetzt hat gearbeitet meisim, and this time also he worked wonders. Azoi, as das Weibel soll kennen nehmen chalitza, that the woman should be able to accept the chalitza. Und noch einmal Chasana haben and get married again. Hat weggelegt sein Teure und gehalten Tag nach Tag allein lernen mit dem Weibel. He set aside his studies and he continually, day after day, would study with the woman. Gerät zu ihr, beruhigt sie mit Guten. He spoke to her. He calmed her with calm, kind words. Bis hat sie eingenommen und sie hat endlich ungeheubenerweise sagen dem Tzadik richtig. Until he prevailed on her. And finally, she began to say the tzaddik right. So der Chalitza is sich zu neuf gekommen, Kind und Kate, in der Weiberschule. For the ceremony of Chalitza, there came together Kind and Kate, a whole bunch of people, into the women's part of the synagogue. Wo die Zeremonie ist vorgekommen, where the ceremony took place. Der Schuster, der Gräster, Partatsch von Stadt, hat gebracht zum Seden, zu betrachten dem Chalitza-Schuch. The Schuster, he was the greatest Partatsch. I'm just looking this one up. Partatsch is a bungler, yeah, not a very good tailor or shoemaker. He brought to grandfather to consider the special Chalitza shoe. Was hat gemacht, that he had prepared. A großen gelumperten Schuch, a great big clumsy shoe, mit lerdende Bändlach, with leather shoelaces. Das ist öfter gewesen der einzige neue Schuch, was der Latutnik hat gemacht in sein Leben. Perhaps it was the very first new shoe that this patcher had actually made from scratch in his life. Der Zeder hat gefunden, als es gemacht Alpidin. Zeder found out, or he investigated and discovered that it was made according to the rule. Und hat geheißen, nehmen sich zu der Zeremonie. And he ordered that people take themselves to begin the ceremony. And let me stop at this point. It's a long paragraph, and maybe Rachel can pick up.
I don't think Rachel is here.
Rachel was here, but she's left. So Susan.
Shmuel Shamus hat gebracht a Schüssel mit warmem Wasser. Shmuel Shamus brought a pot with warm water. Und Seif and soap. Und hat in der Weiberschule. Und hat in der Weiberschule vor allem in the Augen. And he went to the women's section so everybody could see, upgewaschen by dem Chalitza Geber, and he cleaned up by the one who was giving Chalitza, ein Fuss. He cleaned one of his legs. Auf welchem men wird ihm dürfen untun dem Chalitza Schuch, the one foot that they would have to put on that one Chalitza shoe. Hat ihm gewaschen lang und pinklich. He spent a long time and very carefully washed him. Upgeschnitten die Nägel, he cut his nails. Gereinigt wie bei Tahora, and he cleaned it, I guess, like going to the mikveh.
No, when
Tahora Sames.
Yeah.
When so yeah, cleaning cleaning the dead body. Der junger Mann hat das Waschen nötig gedarft. The young man needed this washing, und nicht for ein Fuß, and not only on that one foot, nor Tage for beide, but really for the 2 feet. Aber Shmuel Shames hat gehabt, aber fell abzuwaschen jenem ein Fuß. But Shmuel Shames had, his job was to wash that guy's one foot. Und Azoi hat getun. And that's what he did. Azoi hat getun. Wer zwischen der zweite Fuß ist nicht sein Essig. The second foot has nothing to do with him. It's not his business. Der Chalitza-Geber mit ein gewaschenem und ein nicht gewaschenem Fuß, the one who was about to have the Chalitza ceremony with one clean foot and one dirty foot, hat gelost sich untun dem Chalitza Schuh. Let them put on the one Chalitza shoe. Und gefühlt sich gehäuben. And he felt himself uplifted. Gehäuben?
Yeah, proud.
Was man washed him, yes, he felt something good was being done to him. Was man hat him, was man washed him und man tut him und the fact that they washed him up and they dressed him. Dennoch hat Keverin gebracht das Horebreit.
The covering.
Covering. After that, the grave digger brought the cleaning board und weggestellt in a winkel and put it away in a corner. Durch dem Eulen is a pachad durchgegangen. Through the viewers, the people that were there was a great sense of fear went through them. Men hat gesucht, als hinter dem Tehorebreit gefindt sich die Neshume. They said that behind the cleaning board, you would find the soul von verstorbenem kinderlosen man. You would find the soul from a dead kinderlosen. What is that?
Childless.
What?
A dead childless husband.
Oh, a childless kinderlosen, not no children, a husband with no children. Was kommt zu der Chalitza von sein Almune? What comes to the Chalitza from his widow? Und men tur der Ribbe nicht gucken in dem Winkel. And you're not supposed to look in that corner. Weil men ken Chalila geniesucht werden. You might be injured. Because you might, God forbid, be injured. Wie damit hat men mich gezeugen mit Skonis Nefoshes. As always, I was really drawn tremendously to Kuckendorf, to look there. Woman turnished where you're not supposed to. Hagam ich hab gezittert vor Pachet, even though I was shaking with fear. Der Seider hat geheißen sein still und genommen sich durchführen die Chalitza. Seider told everybody to be quiet and he went on to go through with the Chalitza ceremony.
Genommen is began.
What?
The word genommen here, it means he began.
And genommen, and he started, yes, started the ceremony of the Chalitza. Dus Weibel übergeheist,
Gedeckt.
dus Weibel übergedeckt mit a shawl, the woman covered with a shawl, dus Punim zwischen Mansbiel, and her face was between the men. Hot zitterendik.
No, that's not quite it. She had the covering on her head because her face was among men.
Oh, dus Punim zwischen.
She was among men, and therefore
So she covered her face because she was among men. Hot zitterendik noch gesucht, and she, shaking, she repeated the Wörter und geweint. She repeated the words and she cried. A Weile is gewein a Gefahr. At first there was a danger, als sie soll wieder sich nicht erschrecken vor dem Tzaddik. And while people were afraid that she would also continue to make the mistake with the pronouncing the Tzaddik, und Kalje machen die ganze Chalitza, and she would ruin the whole Chalitza ceremony. It would not be official. Aber sie ist durchbeschollen, but she got through correctly. Mein Seidenspunem hat sich ausgelettert. My Zeta's face cleared up, or was it
Relaxed. Relaxed.
Dus Weibel hat gespiegen for ihr Schwuger, and the woman spit out in contempt to her brother-in-law. Emitzer hat a Warf getun dem Chalitza-Schuch, and somebody threw the Chalitza-Schuh. Alle haben sich gleichzeitig schnell upgekehrt, and everybody at the same time quickly turned around, weil man hat geglaubt, als wenn man der geworfenen Schuh rührtun, lebt nicht aus der Jahr, because they believed that whoever was touched by the thrown shoe wouldn't live one more year. Als solche und andere Sachen habe ich sich ungesehen genug in mein Seidenshaus. These and other things I saw plenty of in my Seidens house. In die Summers, wenn ich pfleg kommen mit mein Mutter kein Bilgerei. During the summers when I would come with my mother to Bilgerei. Wie in Seidens Beistinstube, where in the Seidens, in my Seidens court, a soll seinen in der Bobbe's Beluche. Just like in my grandfather's court, there were also in my grandmother's area of where she ruled, der Kich, which was the kitchen. Die kommen allerlei Weiber, all kinds of women came, mit Seire Zures und Naches, to talk about their troubles and the Naches, the good things that happened to them. Sich suchen und Deiges, arguments and worries. Ich hab oft sich ausgehabt,
Ausgehabt. I grabbed myself away.
Oh, it is ausgehabt.
It's arois.
Reus gehabt. Oh, ich hab oft sich Reus gehabt von seitens Beisdienstu. At times I pulled myself away from my Zayden's cord und verbracht in der größer Kirche and went to enjoy myself and spend time in the big kitchen, in der weiberische Melocha, in the womanly kingdom of the kitchen.
Okay. Die weiberische Melucha in der Kirche, the women's kingdom in the kitchen. Chotsch der Bobes Melucha is gewinn in der Kirche, nicht kein übrig ungesehen Ort, für ein Königreich hat sie, die Bobbe, dort geführt ihr weiberische Memschola mit groß Würde. So even though my grandmother's kingdom was in the kitchen, which was not really such an ungesehen Ort, such a good distinguished place for a kingdom. She, the Boba, she conducted her womanly rule with great dignity. Das rabbonische Haus is tomit gewinn ungestoppt. This rabbinic house was always full of people. Koidem kol hat sich aufgehalten in Stub der Vetter Itche mit sein Weib Rochele und seine zwei Kinder. First of all, they lived in the house, Uncle Itche with his wife Rochele and their two children. Der Vetter Itche is gewinn ein junger Mann, was hat geräuchert a Sach Papyroslich. Uncle Itche was a young man who smoked many cigarettes. Gekannt schreiben Russisch mit a gewaltig schöner Handschrift. He could write Russian with a very beautiful handwriting. Gehat smicha auf Rabbonis und a viele reingeguckt in an alt gebackene russische Zeitung. So he was ordained as a rabbi, and he even looked into an old, I'm not sure what this gebackener altgebackener, an old-fashioned perhaps Russian newspaper. Was fleckt einmal leihen bei einem von die stottische Beamte, which he would borrow from one of the town officials. Fleckt euch vielen von Seiten die Kasione Bicher und euch schreiben Metricus. He also used to do führen. For he used to carry the books of belonging to the government and he would write out birth certificates.
Yeah, altgebacken here means stale, and that means kind of not yesterday's paper, or it may be week-old papers.
Ah, okay. I couldn't find that in the dictionary.
Yeah, I just found it.
Okay, great. So that makes sense. Fleckt euch vieren Seide. Okay, so he would do these state officials of forms of the government, and he would write out birth certificates. Mit ein Wort, is gewinn a junger Mann a Muslim, was ken als. In a word, he was a very accomplished young man who knew everything. Aber wie groß Muslim is gewinn, also groß Schlemaznik is gewinn. But as accomplished as he was also a great loser. Hat sich zu kein Schum Parnosse nicht gekannt erschlagen. He couldn't succeed at any kind of livelihood. Und ist darüber gesessen mit Weib und Kinder und gegessen ewige Käst beim Seiden. And for that reason, he remained with his wife and his children come all the time in the Zayda's house, boarding in the Zayda's house. Also wie ist gewinn der Jüngste zwischen die Brüder und Schwester seiner, since he was the youngest of his among his brothers and sisters, und der Liebling bei der Bobben hat gepetcht wie a Engel a Ben Yochid. Since he was the darling of his the Bobber's darling, and he was spoiled like an only child. Und hat getan der Bobben a Teuver, as hat gegessen. And he did the Bobber a favor when he ate. In der Stube haben sich euch aufgehalten zwei der wachsene Mädler. And in the house there were also supported two grown-up young women. Töchter von der Mumme Sora, the daughters of Auntie Sora, was ist geblieben an Almona noch ihr ersten Mann und Chasne gehabt miteinander Mann. So she remained a widow after her first husband died, and she married a second husband, another man, von Stettel Tornegorod, who came from this Stettel Tornegorod. Ihre drei Kinder von ersten Mann seien darüber gewesen beim Seiden in Haus, and her three children from her first husband were at the same time lived in the Zayda's house. Der Zayda hat es wie eigene Töchter und der Zayda hat es gehalten für eine Mitzvah zu erziehen die zwei Jesäumes. The Zayda regarded it as a mitzvah to educate these two orphan girls, Simela und Teubela, wie eigene Töchter, und uns geben sie Verwohllernes. And he he educated these two orphan girls, Simela and Tobela, like his own daughters. And he gave the two girls out as for good students. Wenn man darf geben Norden, for whom one should give dowries, Matonus und Kest, dowries, gifts, and Kest. I don't know how to translate that.
Boarding.
Boarding. Okay. Zusammen mit sie ist gewinn in Stub seiner Bruder Elia, a Bocher, was is gesessen und gelernt. And together with them in the house was their brother Elia, a young man who sat and studied constantly. Oft fleckt euch kommen auf a Zeit a Tochter von der Mumme Teuba. And often for a time there would come the daughter of Auntie Teuba, was hat gewohnt in Stettel Gorshkov. And Auntie Teuba lived in the town of Gorshkov. Auf die Summers fleckt mein Mama kommen mit mir und meine Schwester. And in the summer, my mother would bring me and my sister as well. Die alle hat man gedacht speisen. All of these people had to be fed. Kleiden und Schuchen. They had to be fed, clothed, and shoes bought. Und die Bobbe, das kleine Idenkeller, mit dem größten Bund schließlich. And the Bobbe, this little woman with a big bundle of keys, of locks and keys, hat gehabt a Sacharbeit und Kopfdreinisch. She had a lot of work and bother to besorgen allemen und alles, to look after everybody and everything. Zudem ist ihr Kich glatt als gewesen, damit voll mit Gästen. And in addition, her kitchen was always very full of guests, Orchim, Gabetes, Tzedakah-Kleiberens, Ormelite, und Stammmenschen. So the kitchen was always full of visitors, Gabetes, the wives of shul officials, women collecting tzedakah, poor people, and ordinary people. Was seien reingekommen zum Rovenhuis, sie haben es ja gedacht, sie nicht. Who all of these people came into came to the rabbi in his house, whether they needed to or not.
Dem Sedenshuis hat gehört zu Kol und ist gestanden auf kolischen Boden. Grandfather's house belonged to the Jewish community, and it stood on land belonging to the community. Neben dem Schulhof, right next to the courtyard of the synagogue, wo es haben sich gefunden euch die Bate Midrashim, Kleisen, das Hektisch, und alle übrige gute Sachen, where you could also find the study halls, the prayer halls, the poor folks' house, the Hektish, and also the remainder of the good things. Jeden haben darüber betrachtet dem Sedenshuis waren in kollische Institution. So therefore, people considered grandfather's house as some sort of a community institution, via Beis HaMedrash, a Steger, like, for example, a study hall. Wohin man kann reingehen bei jeder Gelegenheit, where you can go in whenever you want. Is Yid gewinn durstig? Is reingegangen zum Rav in Greußen Vorheis. If someone was thirsty, well, he would come in to the rabbi's place, to the large foyer. Wo es ist gestanden a Fass Wasser, and that's where there was a barrel of water. Hat angeschöpft a bissel Wasser in der größer, schwerer Kuperner Schep. He would draw a little bit of water in the great, heavy copper ladle. Und in Einwegs schon reingegangen zu der Boben in Kirch, sagen Gott helf Rebbetzin. And along the way, he would also come into grandmother's kitchen to say, good afternoon, Rebbetzin. The Gott helf is Southern Yiddish for good afternoon. Hat a Yid a Batlan, verchalisch das Herz in Beis HaMedrash by the Torah. So if a otherwise unemployed fellow would feel faint in the study hall studying the Torah, is reingegangen zu der Rebbetzin in Kirch. So he would come into the Rebbetzin kitchen. Und gebeten a glass tea, he would ask for a glass of tea. Zum Seiden in Beis Din Stub hat man nicht gehabt die Hose reinzugehen. But they didn't have the gall just to walk into the rabbi's Beis Din room. Gewöhnlich pflegt Yid teinen, als Stickel Zucker hat mit sich, oder als trinkt Tee und Zucker. Usually, people would say that they actually already had a little bit of sugar, or that they drink tea without sugar. Aber die Baba pflegt nicht wollen Herren von Azazach, but grandmother wouldn't hear of such a thing. A Brum gaben v'chalila, und zu tragen dem jeden Tee mit a Kletzel Zucker. She would hum a little bit of, God forbid, and she would bring the fellow tea with a little block of sugar. Tamid hat es sich nicht geendigt mit ein Gläsel. It would never finish with just one glass. Nor mit etliche Gläser. It would always be several. Von Ochem is abgerett. No need to mention guests. Bilgerei hat gehabt größter Erfolg bei Orchim. Bilgerei was very successful when it came to guests. Was pflegen sich ankommen von alle Ecken Polen. They used to come from all the corners of Poland. Und Tamid pflegt man treffen in der Bobbeskirch sitzen verkolteten, abgerissenem Heisergeher mit Kirchtisch und essen a Gritz oder a Schüssel Kartoffel mit Borscht. You could always find in grandmother's kitchen, sitting down, verkolteten, that has to do with hair.
Unkempt.
Unkempt. Yeah, it has to do with the hair in disarray. So unkempt is good. And with clothing in tatters. A Heisergeher, someone who would be a beggar from house to house. He would be sitting at the table in the kitchen. He would eat porridge, or maybe a bowl of potatoes with borscht. But the Medina Geher haben gehabt gewaltige Appetiten. These folks who went from place to place, they had amazing appetites. When they pflegen Tomid betten, me soll sie zugissen nach a paar Löffel. They would always ask, oh, please, would you give me just a few more spoonfuls? Einem as a bettler gedenkich. I remember actually one of these folks, one of these beggars. Wir wollt mir noch jetzt gestanden vor die Augen, as if he were still right in front of me. Das ist gewesen bewachsener, schwarzbärtiger Jid. This was a bewachsener, tall, grown, black bearded fellow. Mit a größer Torbe über an Achsel. He had a great big sack on his shoulder. Und a gewaltiger Stammler, but he was also a fearful
Stammler. Stutterer?
Stutterer, that's the word, thank you. Fliegt oft kommen kein Bilgerei. He would come often to Bilgerei, and jedes Mal abstatten a visit by der Bobbin in Kirch, and he would always pay a visit to grandmother in the kitchen. Fliegt Tomid epis fellen zum Essen. It was always something missing in the food for him. Gewöhnlich fliegt die Bobbe geben zwei hübsche Schüsseln. Usually, grandmother would give him two enormous bowls. Eine mit Kartoffel, the andere mit Borscht. One with potatoes, the second one with Borscht. Der Bettler fliegt essen gich, raschig. The beggar would eat quickly, in a hurry. Eder man hat sich umgekehrt, fliegt sagen. And before you could turn around, he would say, Rabbitson, es fällt mir zu, ein bisschen Borscht zu die Kartoffeln. Rabbitson, I'm lacking just a little bit of borscht for my potatoes. All right, Susan.
Oh. Die Bobbe hat ihm zugegossen a neue Schüssel Borscht. Grandma poured out for him a new jar of Borscht. In a Minute herum hat man wieder gehört sein Stammeln. And a minute later, you heard him stutter. Rabbitson, es fliegt mir zu a bissel, es fehlt mir zu a bissel Kartoffels zum Borscht. Rabbitson, I'm missing some potatoes in my Borscht. So is es gegangen a Meise ohne Sof. And that's how it was, a story without an end. Von nicht weiten hektisch pflegen kommen kranke arme Weiber. From the not very far away poorhouse, they used to come sick and poor women, nor are der quickenished, noch der quickenished to get some refreshments. Tomid hat die verhallischt, Tomid hat sie verhallischt dus hearts. They always were weak. Geklemmt by Leffele. Geklemmt by Leffele. They wanted another spoonful?
No, Leffele here is the breastbone, and Klemmen beim Leffele means hunger pangs most usually.
Oh,
It was squeezing at the breastbone, literally.
Genug bei Gribu. What's that? Genug beim Gribu.
Noggin is to gnaw at.
Oh, it was gnawing in their belly.
That's it.
Und die Bobbe hat sie gedacht, mechaie sein mit a bissel Karschensaft. And the Bobbe had to liven them up with a little cherry juice, oder eingemacht or jam. Andere haben gedarft jäichelig. Some others wanted some broth, oder glatt a Löffel gekecht, or a spoon of something cooked. Die Weiber pflegen reden und wünschen und weinen und sitzen und jochzen. The women would talk and wish one another and cry and sigh und jochzen and complain. Als men pflegt haben Wasser in die Ohren von sie. Oh, they would complain that there was water in their ears. Gewietes mit seidene Tichlach. are women with silk kerchiefs auf die Cap. These are well-to-do women in silk kerchiefs. Was Tommy Zamlen ze for a davar tov. They're always collecting for a worthy charity, for kimpeturins, for pregnant women, for zesene kalas, for abandoned brides, for mesim untachrichim, for ones who've died and don't have shrouds, und for noch azelige Sachen, and for other things like that. Seien euch gewähnt oft guests by their Bobbin in Keith. They were all very often guests of my grandmother in the kitchen. Mit kovedike balabustas, with these worthy balabustas, or hat men gedarft sich wegsetzen, schmusen. With these worthy women, you had to sit down and have a conversation. Stellen for say a kibbut, put some refreshments out for them. Was they haben geschrien Gewalt, and they said no, they didn't want it. As they willen im nicht. Oh, they would say no, that they didn't want those refreshments. Aber die Baba hat endlich gepoilt by they, but the Baba kept working and bringing things to them. They zones.
Gepoilt is accomplished. So she finally managed.
She managed to do the right thing for them. They sollen sich erquicken mit etwas, that they should get what they needed, at least something. Und es ist wieder weg a Sidre von Borchos. And then there was another meal with blessings, und Wünschenischen, and wishing one another, und Zifzereien and sighs, und Krächzenischen and complaints. Es pflegen euch oft sitzen in Kirch Weiber, and they often sitting in the kitchen, there were women, was seinen gekommen haben, Dien Teures. It came for Dien Teures, for
court cases.
Court cases, legal decisions, mit Zeyre Mannen. Oh, they came for court cases with their husbands. Weiblich agunas und grosches. So abandoned wives and divorced women. Was haben sich ausgerät sehr bittere Herzen, who talked out and their bitter hearts, getrunken Tee und gewünschen und gesifts, and they wished back and forth, and they sighed, und gekrächzt, and they complained.
Ground.
More?
Okay. Weiber, was pflegen kommen fragen a Scheile beim Seiden auf Teppel-Leffel. There were women who used to come and ask a religious question from with the Zayda about pots and pans, pots and spoons. Weiblich was seine gekommen mit weiberische Scheiles, and there were women who came asking about feminine questions. Alle pflegen gefinnen vernetig rein zu gehen in Kich. All of them found it necessary to come into the kitchen. Gedei zu sagen, bloß Gott helf Rebbetzin. In just to say, good afternoon, Rebbetzin. aber dabei haben sie sich schön verhalten sie haben verhalten und ungerät Welt. But at the same time, they remained and they they chatted.
Everything?
They chatted.
They spoke up a storm.
Yeah, spoke up a storm. Die Tuckerin, was is euch gewinn a Schamester, fleckt aufkommen betten die Bobben auf a Simcha in Stott. So the bathhouse attendant's wife, who was also a female attendant in the shul, would often come to invite the Bobba to a Simcha in town.
I think it's just the opposite here. The Tukarin is the bathhouse attendant, who's a female, and the Shamasta is the wife of the Shamas, who's always a male, I think.
No, but Shamasta is female, is feminine.
Right. So Tukarin, the job itself calls for a woman. Shamasta, the job calls for a man. So I'm understanding Shamasta as the wife of a Shamas, but I'm understanding Tukarin as the bathhouse attendant herself.
There would have to be a female bath attendant for the females.
Yeah. I understood it as the wife of the bathhouse attendant, and the wife and the female shamas for the women's shul, one who organized in things in the women's shul.
I don't think such an occupation existed.
Okay. Be that as it may. Sie fleckt oft kommen betten die Bobbe auf Simcha. So she would invite the Bobbe to a Simcha in the town. Sie fleckt hereinkommen sehr feierlich. Ot die Idene und azogton hoich. So she would come into the kitchen very solemnly, this woman, and she would speak like this. She would say this. Rebbetzin Kroin, Beile Sora Chippe Leis hat sehr schön gelost beten auf der Chassene von ihr Tochter. So Rebbetzin, Beile Sora Chippe, the daughter of Leah, asked very invites you very kindly to the wedding of her daughter.
Yeah, I think her name is Bela Sora, and her mother's name is Chipalea, because names are usually doubled and not tripled.
Oh, okay. Okay, Bela Sora and Chipalea is the mother. Okay, I accept that. Okay. Die Bobbe ist selten gegangen auf a Chassaner. So the Bobbe very rarely went to a wedding. Aber sie hat damit gegeben der Tuckerin a paar Groschen. But she always gave the bathhouse attendant's wife a few Groschen, a few coins. Fahren weg und sie mechabet gewinn mit eingemacht. And she gave her a few coins and offered her eingemacht preserves. Die Idene hat raschig gepatscht mit der Zung das Eingemachts und erzählt wegen aller ihre schamoschische und tuckerinische Passierungen. So this woman quickly, hastily licked with her tongue the preserves and told about her Shamoshisha, attendance and bathhouse events in the town. Ot die idene fleckt euch kommen alle paar Wochen zu mein Bobben opgollen ihr dem Kopf. This woman also would often come once every few weeks. She would come to the Bobber to shave her head. Was die Bobber fleckt stellen für ihr Kibbut. And the Bobber would give her snacks for doing this job. Von Levias pflegen Teiljiden und Weiber euch sich verhalten bei dem Rovshuis. And from funerals, many Jews and women, men and women, would also stop off at the rabbi's house. Opwaschen die Hand in Vorhuis, and they would wash their hands in the vestibule. Wie der Minhag is, as was the custom. Und reinkommen sagen der Bobben, as Gott soll euch hitten die Stadt von Zar. And they would they washed their hands and they would come into the kitchen to the Bobba and say to her that God should
Protect.
protect the town from sadness. Dabei haben die Weiber angesichts a Welt, geseder gesagt, nicht da gedacht, nicht für kein Schum Jiddisch Haus gedacht. So at the same time, these women would sigh greatly and say, one shouldn't think about these things here. And it shouldn't, such a thing shouldn't be shouldn't be thought about in a Jewish home. Es soll fallen auf alle Wüste, Felder und Wälder. It should rather fall out in any field or in the forests. Opgespiegen a schlecht Oig. They would spit to prevent an ein horror, an evil eye. Und der quickt sich mit a Gläsel Tee, and they would be refreshed with a glass of tea. Aber das alles ist gewinn gar nicht mit nicht gegen dem, was es hat sich abgetan in der Bobbes Kich, wenn man fleckt stellen Chuppes auf ein Schulhof. So, but all of this was nothing in comparison with what used to go on when in the Bobber's kitchen, when they would set up a chuppah in the schulyard. Und wenn Kalles pflegen kommen zum Seiden in Heus mit las Chinkes, las Chinas, and when brides would come to the Zeder in the house with this lashchinas, which is the merrymaking after a week of Sheva Brochas. And I think maybe we should stop here.